We're live.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Week 7 NFL Roundtable. And we have a jam-packed agenda and some special guests this week on the show. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in some of the regulars here, some of the familiar faces for some of you. Started off, Mike Constantino. Mike, Conman, what's going on?
I'm looking forward to tonight's show. I can't wait for our next introduction, but great job last week. We all had a great show, and we had a lot of winners that you're going to be hearing about soon, but I'm excited to break it down tonight.
Absolutely. And then we got Joey Rackets coming to us from the pool hall.
Yeah, we're hanging out at Moe's Bar. How you doing, Healy?
I'm doing great, man. Looking forward to another weekly breakdown. And then last but not least, we got Mr. Big Fries himself, Scarface. Jerry, congrats on last weekend.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.
I'm looking forward to breaking down the show with you. I know you and I have been competing, breaking down slates here at 4Deep for the subscribers for several months now.
My first roundtable show.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to
I had to dress the part for this one.
What an outfit. Did you go out and get that, or was that like in the closet already ready to go?
No. My wife put it together.
Oh.
She's in charge of wardrobe.
Well, yeah. Well, without beating the dead horse, I know a lot of folks saw the screenshot from last week. Let's just kind of kick it there. You took down 3 massive GPPs on FanDuel last week, live final seat. Tell the folks a little bit about it.
Well, the lineup was Josh Allen, Eno Benjamin, Deion Jackson, Steph Diggs, Jamar Chase, Traquan Smith, Mark Andrews, Darrell Henderson, and Falcons D. And I really wanted exposure to that Buffalo KC game, so I went with Josh Allen. I wanted Diggs connecting with him. Jamar Chase was my favorite play on the entire slate, so it was hard to plug Diggs, Chase, and I wanted Mark Andrews in the lineup also. It was hard to get all 3 of them in without digging for some value, and luckily last week was one of those slates where there was a ton of value at running back. So I had Benjamin, Deion Jackson, Darrell Henderson, all chalk plays, but I used them to build the lineup where I don't think a lot of people were able to build it because I took a chance on Traquan Smith, who came out at 1% owned on less than 1% owned on FanDuel. And he caught a touchdown. I think it was on the first drive. And then I punted the Atlanta defense. They were like the stone minimum on FanDuel. And I think it was the first drive with them where it was a fumble recovery. They picked it up. They ran it in for a touchdown. And FanDuel had not scored it yet as a touchdown. They scored it as a fumble recovery because one of the defensive players dropped it in the end zone. Another one picked it up. And I was texting my rep at FanDuel, telling him, you guys got to change the score. You guys got to change the score. He kept assuring me, yeah, we're going to change it. We're going to change it. We're going to change it. And it was like halftime of like the second flight of games, and they still hadn't changed it. And he kept texting me, assuring me they were going to change it. I mean, not for me, but for, for all of FanDuel. And they ended up changing it, and it shot me to the top in all of my contests.
And it was what, 316 or so?
316. Are you talking about the score?
No, it's total dollars returned.
Oh, total. It was 316 plus the live final, and the live final pays out $10K in advance. So it was about 325.
What's first place in the live final? Share that part.
What's first place in the live final on FanDuel is $500K.
Nice.
Well, that's I know a lot of us hope and aspire to win 300 stacks this weekend, but we're going to go back through the same process. We're going to, look to do it, take it down again. I know you're going to be in those nosebleed contests yet again, and you're, like not many folks may not know, Jerry's a guy that plays 1 to 3 lineups pretty much every single day. He's not an MME guy. He plays his favorite plays, and he's not building 150. So he's a great guy to learn from.
And we have to hammer home that Jerry is also a content provider and wrote the article, and all his plays were available for our subscribers, here at 4Deep, which is amazing. And one thing that's pretty special about our community, we all put our money where our mouth is. Jerry, Healy, you guys are two of the top DFS players out there. I mean, not only in knowledge, but you guys consistently play, Rackets on the betting side, and Bill and everybody. So, I mean, we have receipts. So we're playing this stuff.
Absolutely. So let's hop in. I know we do have a few more teams on buys this week, so not quite as many games as we had in weeks past. So we can hop into the 1 p.m. slate of windows. Mike, you kind of want to start taking us through this week's games?
Yeah. So the first game we're gonna go to is the Cleveland-Baltimore game here, and it's my game to start it off. The way that I see this game, Ravens coming off a disappointing loss. They get to go home. Cleveland has a good offensive line, both in the run and the pass game, but Cleveland can't stop the run on the defensive side, and that's not going to bode well for them against Lamar Jackson here and the newly rejuvenated Kenyon Drake, who are two plays I like this week. Lamar at 8,000 and Drake at 5,100. J.K. Dobbins, rather, is still a little banged up. But even if he comes back, I mean, Drake looked good. He looked explosive.
He's out for the next 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, they put him out.
I must have read that.
He's on IR. I think he's
on
IR.
I missed that.
It happened. Just happened today.
Okay, yeah, because I looked today and I thought it said questionable. Here. Oh, now it says out. I'm looking at the screen. And I also like the Baltimore defense. So I like the correlation of the running back and the defense. I think they're going to be able to pound the ball down the Browns' throat, and then that'll force Cleveland to pass, and they can get sacks. I mean, they scored 6 points, 7 points more, and they're only 3,500. So my plays in this game are solely from this side. And the only thing that I would consider on a run back is David Njoku at 4,200. However, I do like other tight ends this week that I favor in that spot.
Yeah, Jerry, what are your any strong DFS takes at this point Friday night on this game?
I mean, as far as Lamar goes, you can play Lamar. I feel like he's more of a cash game quarterback this week. There's better spots for other quarterbacks on the slate, so I don't know if I'm going to get to him. Mark Andrews, always in play. It's just a matter of his price. He's averaging 10 targets a game. It's just a matter if you could fit him in or not. I think Kenyon Drake's in play. There's running backs on the slate that are priced about the same as Kenyon Drake on the slate. So I don't think he's going to see much ownership. There's guys like Jacobs, who we'll get to later. They're priced around the same price as him. So I don't think you're going to see much ownership on him. As far as the Cleveland side, I don't think I like anybody on the Cleveland side. Chubb seems to have a history of getting shut down by Baltimore. So I think I'm kind of off of him and his price. I don't think I'm going to get to him. The O-line's kind of beat up. I kind of have a little bit of interest in the Baltimore defense. I think they could possibly get to Brissett, sack him, fumbles, interceptions, who knows, They're not, I'm not sure what their price is, but they're definitely on my radar as for a defense.
Yeah, for me in this one, somewhat similar. Lamar, I'm teetering on my top tier quarterbacks, which ones I'm going to have in my MME builds this week. As you guys noted, he has some massive rushing upside, so the floor is always there with him. Drake's the guy I'm most interested in. The Browns just have been awful versus the run. They're allowing nearly 6 yards per carry on the ground. They've given up 10 touchdowns to opposing running backs through the first 6 weeks. I think we're still waiting on the Bateman news. He's questionable as of the last report today. If he continues to be out, I think those targets are going to continue to funnel to Andrews.
Yeah,
and
if Bateman's out, I think Andrews. I mean, he's priced up. That's the problem with him. Obviously he's a good play every week, but if Bateman's out, it makes him that much of a better play.
Yeah, and somewhat similar to how you used him last week, right? Like he's always in play. He's contrarian because he's priced up, and it just
doesn't matter if you can fit him
the bill. Exactly. On the other side of this one, Njoku, he's one guy I'm looking at, but I actually like Amari Cooper. The Ravens are allowing 6th most fantasy points to opposing wide receiver ones. Coming into this one, they've continued to give up some big plays. Their defense it's just not the same as it used to be. I know Brissett's not a quarterback you love to put a ton of money behind and trust. But I don't mind Amari Cooper based on where he's priced this week and given the projected ownership on him. He's one of the contrarian wide receivers that I'm looking at this week. Any other takes from this game?
Yeah, I just have a question for you guys both. How much do you factor in game flow here? Because, we see the Ravens as a 6.5 point favorite. They have a plus matchup in the run game. And if they do get out to a lead, are you factoring that in when you're looking at it, Andrews, and saying, if they get in a positive game script that they might not be passing as much? How much does that weigh into your decision?
Yeah, for me, go ahead, Jerry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, every lineup I build, I have to have some type of projected game flow. So if I'm using Andrews in this particular game, I think it's going to be a neutral game script or a somewhat tight game for a large majority. I don't see the Ravens blowing them out personally, so I'd be comfortable using Andrews in this particular game. And he's a massive red zone threat for them, even if they get down there. So I have no concerns in using Andrews this week.
Andrews sees so many targets where I think game flow doesn't matter, because even if they got to a point where they're up by 21, up by 14, up by whatever, they've probably gotten there because of Andrews, right? He's gotten those targets. He scored those touchdowns. Game script, I feel, does not matter with Andrews. So if you want to play him, you could fit him, you play him.
Yeah, I think he's a little even underrated, as crazy as that sounds. Everybody's Kelsey, but Andrews is the large.
I'm always going to be an Andrews fan, being in my lineup last week.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Rackets, anything to
I'm never going to dog Andrews.
I love Kenyon Drake this week. I'm with Healy on Cooper. I love Amari Cooper. That's really it from that game. I don't really, not too much.
All right. Well, I think we hit that one pretty good. And from a betting standpoint, I kind of favor the Ravens as a teaser leg. So next game here, team I love, not even a team, I should say, but a player I love, Tom Brady. We all know I'm a Tom Brady guy. Broke my heart last week, man. He cost me my parlay. He cost me a lot of money last week, and something's just not right. You see that with the Packers this year, and I'm just saying there's something that's not right with some teams, and I'm starting to see that now. The only thing I'll add here on this game is that Carolina's a dumpster fire. Head coach gets fired. New coach steps in. Wide receiver fights with wide receiver coach. Head coach, he gets shipped off in a trade to Arizona. Now, what type of message are you sending when you trade away Christian McCaffrey? I actually heard the head coach today on the radio, and he was saying, what type of player they look for, a community guy, a first to practice, a great leader, this or that. And he goes, and we had him with McCaffrey, and it's sad that we have to trade him. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. And the line shot up on this game. But I'm going to kick it, I think, to Rackets to start here. What are your thoughts on this game from a DFS and betting perspective?
Brady broke my heart last week, but I'm going to give him one more opportunity this week. Coming off that performance last week, I have to think he rebounds. Carolina's the worst team in football, like you said. He's got to light him up this week. The line says he does at 13.5. In order to get that many points, the Tampa Bay's got to score, right? So I like Brady a lot this week. I'm going to give him one more fucking chance, man. And then I like Fournette, 7.7K. Carolina's 25th in the league against opposing running backs. Lenny scored 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He's gotten at least 24 touches in back-to-back weeks. I think he gets another 20 to 25 this week in what should be a heavy game script in the third and fourth quarter, where they're leading by a couple scores, 3 scores maybe, and they're just icing it. I like Godwin at 6.3K. 28 targets in the last 3 weeks, and he's outproduced Evans in all but one of those games. Evans is a good play at 6.9K, but I'll take the $600 price discount and the heavier volume with Godwin. And then the Bucs defense at 3.9K. The only weapon on this offense is on his way to San Francisco right now, and PJ Walker and Jacob Eason aren't scaring anybody, right? So I like the Bucs D a lot. It's a little expensive if you can fit him in. It's a good play at 3.9K.
Jerry, what's your thoughts here?
Just like he said, even in a blowout, which, it projects to be a blowout. Carolina is a complete disaster. It could be a total beatdown. Even in a blowout, Brady can get 4 touchdowns, right? They got to score to blow them out. Brady's in play. Fournette is in play. I love Mike Evans. This seems like a get-right spot, right, where they can just start connecting again. and he could just feed him touchdowns in the end zone, or it could be Fournette. It's a spot for all of them. Whether or not it's a competitive fourth quarter, I don't know, but they're going to get there. If the score is 35-7 or whatever it is, they got to score those 35. So I'm definitely interested in the Tampa side. I love Fournette. Fournette's probably my favorite play out of all of them, and Evans. I don't know if I will get to Brady, but Brady he's capable of throwing 4 touchdowns here. This is not impossible for him. And Tampa Bay D, they're priced all the way up, but how the hell are they not going to sack Walker, get turnovers, possible pick sixes, possible fumble? It's very possible that's the reason they're the highest priced defense, right? So Tampa Bay D is definitely on my radar. If I can get to them, I'm definitely going to play them.
So quick, one or the other, Evans or Godwin, because Evans historically has owned Carolina, and Godwin has one of the best matchups in the NFL this week in the slot. So who you picking, A or B?
I'm an Evans guy. I stick to Evans.
Evans, Healy?
I mean, if Godwin beats me, he beats me.
Yeah, for me, and it's a little bit more of the disappointing loss for them last week. Evans only got 4 targets in that game. I think this is Brady's going to feed this guy, make sure he takes care of his wide receiver. I think he peppers Mike Evans, so I favor him this week as well.
And you see Brady do that with his receivers and likes to spread it out, and even got Gronk as bonus. And Racket, you're the one that kicked this off, but again, definitively one or the other. You went Godwin.
Godwin, yeah, I like Godwin this week.
So good takes there. Anybody else to add anything here? Or are we moving along?
I would just say Cameron Brate is out again. 2 weeks ago, we gave you the Cade Otton play at the stone minimum. He's back in play. He's only up to 2.7K. Brady likes to hit his tight end. Again, it's another weapon. They have a lot of different guys. But at 2.7K, he doesn't have to do too much for you. And he'll be the starting tight end getting a ton of snaps. So he's in play for me as a value piece on especially on DraftKings, 2.7K this week.
I like it. I like it. I think I played that out in that week. All right, so I'm moving along here. We're going to a game that is mine, and I'm going to start it off by saying, well, let me tell you who it is. It's the Atlanta Falcons at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals started as one of those teams, in my opinion, that something was wrong, like almost, again, like the Packers. Or you see these dysfunctions. And they're starting to play a little better football lately. Every year, I try to play Joe Mixon. I try to rationalize it, 3 down back, goal line carries, pass catch, the whole thing. And he just never really, does it for me, right? And that's kind of good in this spot because I really like the Cincinnati passing installation here. Falcons are second worst in the league of giving up passing yards per game. And I think that the Falcons are overrated. I know even maybe some people here like the Falcons and think they're a good football team. I mean, I'm not a big Arthur Smith fan as the head coach. I'm not a huge Mariota guy. Pitts is underwhelmed, banged up with the running back. The one area that the Falcons do have a little advantage in is the run blocking of their offensive line, but who's going to carry the ball? And I don't want to put my money on that person. So I don't really like any of the Atlanta pieces, but I like and strongly like the Cincinnati passing game pieces. Burrow, breakout game. I think he could do it again. Chase, Higgins, and Hurst are all going to be in play for me. So I'm probably going to mix and match, maybe run a couple Burrow lineups and maybe do a full-on onslaught with Chase, Higgins, and Hurst, and then a couple lineups with maybe one or the other, which leads to a question we talked about earlier of what is ideal when you like a game in this situation? Like, is it 1 pass catcher? Is it 2? So I'll pass along to the next person, whoever wants to pick it up and run with it from there. But that's what I like here.
Yeah, for me on this one, Mike, similar. I think full onslaught here on the Bengals side is in play this week. And to your point, I don't think you have to run it back. I don't think you have to just force it because correlations say so, numbers say so. Similar to the Bucs game we just talked about, I think there's a spot where you can play Joe Burrow and at least 2 pass catchers. And kind of in order for me, it is Chase at the top. It just has that massive, massive ceiling. Then it would be Higgins and then Hurst is the kind of the way I'm looking at this. It's, the biggest challenge that the Bengals have faced, despite their offseason investment, is that offensive line. and given Burrow enough time. But Atlanta's second to last in the league in quarterback pressure and sacks coming this week. They're just unable to get there. So that concern is a bit mitigated, and I think this is a game where Burrow will have the time to take those big shots down the field, and potentially some big box scores for more than one pass catcher this week. So I like the onslaught. On the Falcons side, man, it's tough to support anyone on this offense. No Damian Williams or Cordell Patterson. So you're going to have Tyler Algier kind of in the backfield. Again, he's in that 5K price range. I think we all like Drake at 5.1K. Certainly not something I love, but the Bengals are missing their two starting tackles and a starting linebacker, some run stuffers. So if this game can stay competitive for long enough, at 5K, he would be a one run back that I would consider here for the Falcons. Jerry, what are your thoughts?
So my favorite play from this game is Joe Mixon. I don't see this being a competitive game. I kind of like the Joe Mixon Cincy defense stack. Joe Burrow, yeah, of course he's in play. Jamar Chase is always going to have a place in my heart, right? And and Healy knows I'm a sucker for these revenge narratives, right? So I do love me some Hayden Hurst, his 15th revenge game of the year, right? He's been on. So I don't mind Hayden Hurst. I love Joe Mixon. He's probably going to be one of my core plays of the week. And Cincy defense, on FanDuel, is pretty cheap. They're pretty down there. And I think they can beat up Mariota a little bit. Joe Mixon, definitely my favorite play of this game.
Sorry for kicking it off with my Joe Mixon partial disdain, even though I like him.
I mean, Mixon, I think he's at a career high as far as touches per game and that kind of stuff. So the volume, it's tough to argue. He just hasn't had good variance as far as touchdowns, and then he also just never breaks big runs. He just doesn't have that 50-yard touchdown. I say that now. He's going to break a 50-yard touchdown on the first drive because Jerry's going to play.
Oh, he's so going to break that 50-yard touchdown.
This guy runs.
He always has 17 carries for 78 yards and no touchdowns. And then
this is a Joe Mixon game. This feels like a Joe Mixon game. They're back at home. They're they got some momentum. Fans are going to be into it. It just feels like it's his game.
All right, Rackets.
I'm with you guys on the Bengals. I want to see more from that offense, man. They just don't look right now. They kind of look like the Bucs. They're just struggling to score. I want to see more of it. I'm with you though. I think this is the week that they just kind of put it on them.
All right. If we're moving along, we're getting to the week, okay? And I'm going to have one hot take this week, and it's not my game, but I'm going to kick it off here. We're going to go to the Detroit Lions going into Jerry World and playing the Cowboys. And it's a return of Dak Prescott. Cowboys are playing good football. Their defense is looking great. And you all know I love Micah Parsons. I think he's one of the best, defensive players in the league. And there's some good spots here. So I'm only going to say one thing, and I don't want to take no one's shine, and I'll kick the game to Rackets. But it is Zeke week. And I'll come back to it at the end. But this is Zeke week. Happened last year. That one blow up where he got the 2 touchdowns, broke the slate, blah, blah, blah. It's here. Go ahead.
Dak at 6.7 Ks in play. It's a good matchup for him in his return against one of the worst defenses in football. I don't know if he puts up huge numbers himself, but I do think he is in play this week. I'm on Ross St. Brown at 7.1 K. Finally healthy coming off the bye week. I like him a lot this week. Should be a positive game script, and I expect Goff to just pepper him with targets. I don't really like Hawkinson that much this week, and not really too much on the running backs either with the Lions. So I think it's more of a St. Brown. Anything the Lions get is going to be through St. Brown. And then on the Cowboys, I like CeeDee Lamb at 6.8K. Lions 25th in the league against opposing receivers. Dak is back. As I said, he targeted him 11 times in week 1. I was expect more of the same here. Mike's not going to like this one. I'm on Pollard at 5.7. I'm not a Zeke guy, man.
Not this week.
I'm not a Zeke guy. Pollard is a better back in my opinion. Lions are atrocious against the run. I think people will be on Zeke, and I think Pollard is where I'm going to be pivoting in a couple tournament lineups for sure. And then the last play I have in this game is Noah Brown at 4.6K. cheap flyer on a good player and a good offense, man. It should be a high-scoring game. I understand he only had 5 targets in the last 2 games, but he had 9 in week 1 with Dak, so I think it kind of reverts back to that number where Noah Brown is the second option in this offense. Not too much on Schultz this week. It's more CeeDee Lamb, Brown, and Pollard.
So do you think, he leapfrogs Gallup here? Because, I mean, they have a little rapport here, Dak and Gallup.
It's more of the price for me. I like him down to 4.6K under 5. Just the volume there in week 1. I liked it. That's all.
All right.
Jerry, what do you think here?
I'm not as high on this game as everybody else is. I just feel like, Dallas they're gonna score, right? Lions are a shit defense, but I feel like they're gonna spread the ball around a little bit. Like Zeke, he's touchdown dependent. He's not gonna get those yards. He's not gonna get the catches. They'll mix Pollard in. CeeDee, there's so many other receivers I like in like CeeDee's price range. I don't see myself getting to him. On the Lions side, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's probably going to get targeted. I don't think I'm going to get to. I don't like the line. I don't like this game to be competitive. Call me crazy. I think that for the most part, I'm off this game.
Interesting. That's for sure. Yeah, one of the higher totals on the week. This is like the 3rd game now, and it really has to be an evaluation of. I think the Cowboys roll them here. I think similar to the Bengals, I think those are 2 great teaser legs. Both of them sitting at under a touchdown. I know that's kind of Mike's sweet spot. Teasing them down to a pick 'em, and I think this is similar. I think Dak I'm currently leaning Dak over like a Tom Brady in a similar price range, and it's a matter of who do you pair him with. And I'm actually more on the Michael Gallup train. CeeDee certainly projects well. He projects as one of the highest owned players on the slate and highest projection for a receiver. I like this Michael Gallup spot here. Lions give up a ton of big plays. We know Dak and Gallup have a lot of history showing some big play upside. So I think that's Dak returning is what Gallup's going to need to get going. We saw his snaps get up to just north of 75% last week, which is very encouraging just from a pure health perspective. So I'm more on the passing attack here. Zeke and Pollard, kind of, Jared, to your point, there's just not enough volume there that you're just relying on touchdowns. And, we know how unpredictable touchdowns are, essentially just flipping coins at that point. So I prefer the Dallas passing game, and I lean Michael Gallup at 5.1K as my preferred pairing with Dak Prescott.
All right. I mean, now if it's my turn to add back to what I said, I agree. Like Zeke isn't the Zeke of old, and maybe, over the course of the sample size of the full season, I might agree with Pollard, but game script. I mean, Healy nailed it. Those are 2 of my favorite teaser legs. You're getting those home teams in my sweet spot down to a pick 'em with the Cowboys and the Bengals, but Detroit gives up the most yards per game. They suck against the run, period, end of story. And they smell real bad or stink versus the pass. But if this is a get-right spot, they have to get that offense in sync, especially with Dak back. They're not going to come out and be reckless and let him throw the ball all over the field and get interceptions. They're going to run the ball.
I can't wait for somebody to make that GIF Sunday morning with Mike eating when Zeke scores that first touchdown.
He's gonna. I'm telling you. I feel it. I almost feel like I saw it. Yeah, I don't like that. He's a fucking odd body too, that Zeke. A real odd body. But either way, it's Zeke week. Okay, that's one of my bold predictions. So next game, we're going to a team that I predicted last week that they would win, and that's the New York Football Giants. I said they were going to do it for Wink Martindale. I went into the whole narrative of why and the emotions, and they're already playing sky high for this coach, Brian Dable, who's a great coach, and Wink Martindale is a player coach, right? And they got up for him and they won at home. Huge fucking win. They're beating Lamar Jackson, NFL MVP, prior. And now you got to get on a plane and you got to go on the road down to a Jaguars team who a lot of people are on last week. And then, they lost. I think the Giants might be a little flat here. And we talked about that today on Stay Cashin'. That was my take. I think that the Giants are in a flat spot. They've been getting all they can get out of these players. And having said that, I think the Jags might pound away. But I don't really like anybody on the Jaguar side here. And I don't love anybody on the Giants side. I mean, I'm a Saquon guy, and he's on my team and everything. I don't like the spot for him here. Jags are good against the run, and I think the Giants are going to be a little flat. The only two things that I'm looking at from the Giants side due to price and volume, I called Wan'Dale Robinson last week. And he's 4,500 this week. He didn't play a ton of snaps, but he got a large target share. I think that relationship is going to develop. He's going to get more routes, and he's fairly priced. And you can't ignore what Bellinger's doing here at tight end. And at 3,400, he's somebody that Daniel Jones is looking to. So I look those two pieces on the Giants side. And then on the Jaguar side, I don't like anybody. But if I had to look at anything narrative street, it would be Evan Ingram at 3,300, who's getting insane volume in a revenge narrative against his former
revenge.
Giants.
I'm a sucker for those revenge games.
Me too. I love those narratives. So those are the only three pieces I'm looking at in this game.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is not a very fantasy friendly matchup. I have my eye on both defenses as viable plays this week if I land in those price ranges. And Mike, you kind of nailed it. This offense with the Giants essentially runs through Saquon Barkley, and the Jags have been really good against opposing running backs, and I think this is a really tough matchup for him here. So I'm likely going to be off this game altogether outside of some exposure to some defense. How about you, Jerry?
I don't think I'm going to be paying up for Saquon. There's other running backs I like in his price range. With the injuries to the other Giants wide receivers, I can see myself possibly going to Wan'Dale or maybe Darius Slayton. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but they're on my radar. On the Jags side, what about Travis Etienne? You know, they're bringing him along. He's being involved more in the offense. They're kind of phasing James Robinson out a little bit. I think I could see myself going to Travis Etienne at his price. I kind of like him at home. I don't mind kind of pairing him with the Jags D a little bit too. Jags D has been kind of sneaky. I've been using them a little bit this year. They're a little pricey, but I kind of like the Etienne Jags D combo right there.
So you like at $600 difference. You like Etienne over Zeke?
I'll go Etienne over Zeke.
Interesting. How you like that, Mike?
I mean, listen, I'm not advocating Zeke. I play where I think I'm going to get my money, and I tell you, I almost see it in my head. I saw it last year. He just had that one game where he just broke the slate, and I see it. And Etienne, I'm trying to stay away from these split running back positions. And you're right, he is getting a little more volume. But guess what? They fucking introduced now Lawrence and his big goofy ass running last week and vultured one touchdown, and he almost
hasty
second, and he got tackled. You know what I'm saying? So like now there's a third element there. So I'm just trying to stay away from that fucking mess.
That's great. I think we're ready to move on from that dumpster of a game.
The Giants.
Am I right? Am I right? Now they're introducing fucking Trevor Lawrence, his big goofy ass, and now he's gonna get goal line. I mean, how do you shoot that? All right, move to the next game then. I'm gonna go right into it. And here's another split share for me, and my heart's broken. I like the Packers. I like Aaron Rodgers. And he's just been fucking costing me money every week. And I don't know what the hell's wrong. Because at the end of the day, I get the whole Devontae Adams thing. But you still have fucking Aaron Rodgers, right? And he should be playing better with Lazard. And, let's get right into the game. I'm going to leave the emotion out of it. Both teams can't stop the run. You almost have that same situation in Washington with McKissick, Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson. However, Robinson's developing into the bell cow, in my opinion. Doesn't get really many receptions, but he's going to get those goal line touches. I think we're going to see more volume there. So this might be one of those tightly contested games where both teams are running because of the matchup. And I don't want to choose between Jones and Dillon. I'm just probably going to go elsewhere for that reason. I might consider Robinson at 5,500. And I like Tanyan at 4,100. I was on him last week, but I think he's going to get even more usage now with Cobb being out. And he's got a plus matchup, real high rating in his matchup here in the pass coverage against Washington, who historically doesn't defend well versus the tight end. And that's the only way I'm going to look at it. So it's definitely Tanyan and maybe Robinson. And I just can't even get on the Green Bay backs as much as I like them due to the shared, usage. You guys?
What do you think,
If
Jerry?
the Packers are ever going to get right, it's this spot right here. Okay. I like this as a sneaky game stack. I'm not saying this is going to be like one of those stacks on my main team, but I love Aaron Rodgers here. Pair him up with Dobbs, pair him up with Lazard. You can go with that 2 stack with Rodgers, and they're cheap. They're cheap. You can fit other studs with them. They're priced so low. You can go Rodgers, you can go Dobbs, you can go Lazard. You can run it back with Curtis Samuel or McLaurin. You can even, like on DraftKings, go with Heineke. Heineke, I know he's min priced, but he's got history, against the Packers. He's known for rushing in touchdowns. Like on DraftKings, he's like 5K or something like that. You can use him. Hope he rushes in 2 of those touchdowns. Hope he gets 20 points and jam in some of those studs that you couldn't afford playing some of those higher priced quarterbacks. This is one of these games. I know the total's low and they've been playing like shit. You can use this. I think you use this game to kind of build a nice lineup. Right, Healy? You look like you're agreeing with me.
Oh man.
No?
No, I'm completely on board. I thought I was going to be out on an island. I think this for me, this is Aaron Rodgers' week.
This is him, right? This is a spot.
I've been saying that for 2 weeks, guys.
You'll never get Aaron Rodgers. You'll never get him
for 2 weeks
at this price ever. In a spot against the Commanders. I mean, we've been targeting the Commanders all year. Why would we not target Aaron Rodgers, one of the best ever against them?
And I think, this sets up perfectly. Commanders they lead the league in busted coverages, big plays allowed. This is the week where Rodgers gets that play action, and I think he hits multiple big TDs this week. Dobbs, especially at his price, I think he's my preferred pairing. 5K this week on DraftKings. The volume's been there for him. I know the box scores haven't been great, but he's playing a ton of snaps. Continues to see 8+ targets on a week. I like him. I like Lazard. And I think this is a spot where you can even play Aaron Jones with Aaron Rodgers. He is a pass catching back. And coming out of last week's embarrassing loss to Evans Jets.
Let's go.
Is that Evans Jets?
Yeah, LaFleur came out and said, Aaron Jones getting 12 touches just wasn't good enough. They need to get him involved more in the offense. And some of those touches might come on the ground, but I think even playing him in Rodgers stacks with one of the pass catchers, perfectly viable this week. On the Commanders side, I hate targeting them in terms of the secondary. Heineke, I think, is an upgrade for, I'm sure, McLaurin. Extremely excited to get Heineke back. They showed some decent chemistry last year, put up some okay numbers. But as Mike noted, beating them on the ground is traditionally the way to go here. Don't think you have to play a bring back, but in some of my MME builds, going to use some Brian Robinson, who I know they're going to continue to work back into the offense this week. But for me,
on DraftKings, does he not make sense, Heineke?
No. You could certainly lose him. I mean, I'm going to try to get that extra grand and play Rodgers. But I'm in my 150 builds, I'm going to be using both sides of this game for sure, as far as quarterback goes.
Rackets?
I like the Packers a little bit this week. I got a little bit of interest. It's same thing with the Bucs. It's going to be my same reasoning. If it's not this week, it's not happening.
I went broke doing that a couple times in my life.
Chasing that roulette wheel, right, Mike? 8 reds in a row. It's got to be.
I don't subscribe to that theory. I did in the past as a kid. You try to figure out how to beat everything, right? And I'm like, 4 in a row, my odds increase. And I would sit there, and then at 8 and 9 in a row after fucking doubling, I went home with a lot of empty rubber after the play. My life.
That's right.
What do you say? I'm sorry.
I'm saying it makes sense at 4 a.m. when you walk out of the club and you see those like 25 blacks in a row.
It's got to happen, right? It's got to happen. Yeah, I had a lot of empty rubber bands, but let's move it to the next game here. And here's what I have absolutely zero interest in, but I know somebody in this little Brady Bunch square that has a lot of interest in this game, and that is the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. Let me kick it straight to Joe Dennis.
There's actually not a whole lot I like in this game. I have a little bit of interest in Matt Ryan at 5.4K. Yeah, I know. It's my note says before you puke. I started it with before you puke.
Stop.
356 yards against this defense back in week 4. 3 turnovers, yes, but he still scored 23 DraftKings points. He's coming off his best performance of the season by far. 58 passing attempts, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, 0 sacks. The total is very low. I get it. Taylor's coming back, so I don't really love it, but it's for 5.4K. It's a good spot. And if I'm going to play him, I'm going to pair him with Alec Pierce at 4.6K. The kid's still underpriced, man. I've been talking about him for 2 weeks now. 11 catches on 16 targets in his last 2 games. Scored double-digit fantasy points in his last 3. And he's, as I said, he's still under 5K. He went 4 for 80 in week 4 against the Titans, and he's only gotten more involved in the offense over the last couple weeks. Matt Ryan trusted him with the game winner last week. So 4.6K, that's a great play for me. And then the only other play I have here is Derrick Henry at 8.2. Henry owns the Colts, man. He 25 touches for 147 yards back in week 4. He scored 5 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks, and he's put up back-to-back 100-yard games. He destroys them every fucking time he plays him. He ends up in the end zone once, twice, whatever. Henry's the only thing I'm interested in on the Titans side. And then Matt Ryan is a little bit underpriced, so I like that. Other than that, this game sucks.
Rather Heineke. I mean, Matt Ryan's the biggest stiff.
Wait till he throws 350 and 4 touchdowns this week.
I mean, I don't hate your call with the receiver. I mean, that's a good call. I mean, you've been pretty spot on with this team, and even though we didn't nail the Nyheim Hines, it was the first time that you brought it up, but it was the right play. Like it made a lot of sense. So, anything else to add for this game, Rackets?
Nope.
Maybe we'll go on like a reverse here. How about we kick it right to Scarface here?
I love Michael Pittman in this game. Matt Ryan, he's been throwing the ball a ton. Tennessee, they can be beat on the outside. That's where he runs his routes. I definitely like Michael Pittman in this game. Henry, I mean, you definitely play Henry. I mean, he tore them up a few weeks ago for like 100+ yards. I think at home, you can definitely play Henry. I would go with him. If you can afford him, you definitely play him. He's expensive, but it's a good spot for him. Those are the 2 I like. I like Pittman. I like Henry.
All right. Healy?
Yeah, I think this is, for me, it's also a big dog week. I'm paying up for Derrick Henry as my preferred spend-up running back on this week, even when this Colts defense was better against the opposing running backs, as Rackets alluded to. He's always shredded them. He gets them at home this week. I like the Titans to win this game and cover the field goal spread. I think Matt Ryan got his outlier game of the season out of the way last week. From a statistics perspective, you could look to the matchup as far as the numbers go is great for the wide receivers here on the Colts. So either Pittman or Pierce, one of them likely has a decent game, but I'm not getting behind Matt Ryan.
Thank you.
I'm personally just gonna likely play a lot of Derrick Henry from this particular game.
All right, I like it. Anybody else have anything to add here? I really personally don't.
Nope, we're good.
All right. Just kicking off this 4 o'clock window, I have a strong opinion here, Healy, and it's for what I love to do. Like just gobbling up all the offense between 2 players. And it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out where I'm going with this. But as a whole, let's start with the game itself. Raiders 1-4, but they've been playing tough. I mean, they just lost by 1 against Kansas City. They did beat a good Denver defense. They played against a good Denver defense. Houston sucks. I mean, I think this is a get-right spot for the Raiders, and they fall into that sweet spot, Healy, of that home team, 7 points or less, teaser leg for me. I truly believe not only is this a great get-right spot for the Raiders, who will be heading into their bye, they need to win this game, man, at 2-4. And now we have Waller's out. He's confirmed out. Mac Hollins is a little banged up. Adams, not only is there a clear connection, with him and Carr. He's not only one of the only guys to catch the ball, but he's got a good matchup. He's rated 91 this week. It's one of the top ratings, against the defensive secondary. And Jacobs has been a fucking workhorse lately. I mean, he's crushing it. High volume carries, high volume yards, goal line. The only thing I fear here is maybe they give his body a break since he's been running hard the last 2 games. But like I said, they're heading into a bye. So I think this is an absolute smash spot for the Raiders as a whole. Get right going into the bye. And I think you get their entire offense by playing Jacobs and Adams. So those will be 2 of my top plays this week, Jacobs and Adams. And I don't like anything on the run back from the Texans, who has one of the worst defenses versus the run in the entire NFL, which favors Jacobs' game script and everything I just said. Guys.
Jerry, what do you think here?
Jacobs, he's a smash spot. He's going to be probably the highest owned player, maybe even on both sides, right? On the whole slate.
That's what I have projected as well.
I think he's going to be the highest owned player. He's a tough fade. I'm very intrigued in like Renfrow or Hollins. If they're both playing, I would consider playing one of them over Devontae Adams. If one of them misses, Devontae, of course, is in play. He's always in play. But if they're both playing, I kind of like Hollins with Waller out. I don't know if you guys watched or noticed in the last game against KC, they targeted Hollins in the end zone. He's kind of taken that Waller role. He's going to be getting those red zone targets. He's cheap on what is he on DraftKings? I don't even know what his price is, but
4,600.
I don't mind Hollins. Renfrow, I don't mind him either. On the other side, I think Damian Pierce, he's the same price as Jacobs. He's been getting 20 plus carries a game. I don't mind him as kind of a contrarian play. He's probably going to come in, I don't know, maybe under 10% or so. I don't know what the projections are, Healy. Is he around that projection?
For Damian Damian Pierce, I have on DraftKings about 20%.
Okay, 20%.
That's high. I'm shocked.
Yeah, he Damian Pierce is a great play. He's getting all those carries. The one I like from Houston, this is a shout out to my brother-in-law Evan, who drafted him in 25 leagues this year. Nico Collins. This turns into a shootout. He's been getting some of those targets. I would play Nico Collins over Cooks, especially on DraftKings.
I'm with you. I thought he was going to be a guy that no one mentioned this week.
I think he's getting a little bit of steam. I don't think he's going to go as under-owned. He might come in on DraftKings in the 5 to 6% range, something like that.
Yeah, I'm totally good with that, especially at 4.2. But as you mentioned, he's quietly taken over that top spot. He's now leading the team, in terms of air yards, which is in the NFL opportunity for potential big plays. And if we side with Vegas here in terms of game script, they should be throwing quite a bit. So I do like Nico Collins quite a bit. On the Raiders side, for me, this is a Jacob spot. Certainly, just be mindful, as Jerry mentioned, we project him right now as the highest owned player on the slate. But I think he is a good play. This is a really good matchup. He's been really good finishing drives around the end zone. So I do like the Jacobs play this week. And then it's a Nico Collins bring back for me, but nothing more.
All right. Anybody else? Rackets, you have anything to add there?
Nah, nothing in this game for me.
All right. Well, I'm going to kick it right back to you, Rackets, with or if we're going to tag in Evan here for the Jets. Jets versus the Broncos. Now, the one thing that I'm going to kick off from this game, everybody, their aunt, their mother, their brother, their dog walker has come out and bashed Russell Wilson. Most shockingly to me are his teammates. I'm astounded. I mean, they like hit him, brought it back, and slapped him around a little bit was Richard Sherman and Marshawn Lynch. But fucking Michael Robinson lit him on fire. Basically called him like a poser with no emotion, a robot. How dare you get up there? You're going to lose the locker room and go ride Broncos. I mean, like, it was scarring to see so many people come out. And now there's murmurings about him taking the $220 million contract, lame duck coach, kicking it to you guys. But what the fuck is going on there? And Saleh has the Jets playing above their heads.
The Broncos are ass, man. I'm not waiting for them to break out. I'm the one that's been saying since the preseason, I don't believe in this team. I don't think they're very good. Nikos was the first one to say that Russell Wilson was washed, and
he did.
He called it in the offseason, and I'm starting to. I mean, I said it a few weeks ago. I'm believing it, and they're bad, dude. They're just a bad team. I have no interest in anything Broncos in this game. There's only 2 plays. The total's only 37.5 to begin with, which, I mean, what's the total going to be with these 2 teams? But I do like the Jets side of the ball here. I like Breece Hall at 6.2K. This kid's been a monster the last 2 weeks. 318 total yards and 2 touchdowns. The Broncos defense is really good, but they can be run on, and I expect Breece to have a pretty nice day. The Broncos aren't going to run out and get so far ahead of the Jets that it takes them out of the game. So Breece Hall is going to have another fucking huge day. And then the correlated play, Jets D, 2.6K. How are they this cheap against this fucking team?
Yes.
This Bronco offense is dog shit. They're so fucking bad. The unit has scored 41 DraftKings points in the last 3 games. The Broncos' offensive line's atrocious. You're going to get the sacks. Russell can't throw the ball down the fucking field. Give me all of the Jets defense. I understand they're probably the most chalk defense on the slate, but, I mean, holy fuck, dude. Give me the free points.
Quentin Williams looks amazing. Yeah, they're playing great.
Wilson,
that's all
Wilson
I got.
also may be out this week, so the Jets defense also looks better there with Brett Rippon at the quarterback position. So
he has an achy vagina. What's wrong with him?
Something with his hamstring.
Are we sure that that's a downgrade for the Broncos?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm giving up on him. Fucking bad, bro.
Giving up on him.
Yeah, I mean, this game pretty simple for me. Breece Hall on the Jets side would be my preferred play, and really the only guy I'm looking to. The Jets they're really babying Zach Wilson, not letting him go out there and sling it, kind of keeping things under wraps there. Low volume as far as pass attempts go. And then on the Broncos side, we'll shout out to our showdown specialist, Volpe, who kind of nailed the Greg Dulcich play on their primetime game last week. He got in the box on that early in the game for the Broncos. He's the stone minimum again this week for the Broncos, 2.5K. I prefer Otten for the Bucks. But again, if you're 200 short, I don't mind dropping down to a minimum price tight end who's going to likely see about 80% of the snaps here this week for the Broncos.
Yeah, it was a great call with Dulcich, and I actually wound up playing him after reading the article. I think it was like $200 or, it was some ridiculous price, but that was his debut, and I see him getting comparisons to TJ Hawkinson. Albert O has disappeared, and if Russell's a lame duck or a backup quarterback comes in, you sure want the short routes, of the tight end. So that's a great call there, and the prices came out as that game was going on. So you're getting them at the stone minimum, to your point. Breece Hall, I think we all were on him last week, and we hit. He had a great game. He scored well, and at his price range last week, he paid off. I personally don't really have much to add here. Broncos a little bit broke my heart, and they fall into, again, that team of something's broken, something's wrong. They have bad coaching, man, just bad coaching in general and bad quarterback play. And I don't know if it can be fixed, but they do have a good defense, right? So Jets are going to have to step up their game here. It's too obvious to say I love the under here, but I love the under. It got hit immediately. The game opened 43.5, got bet down to 38.5 fast. Now, listen, recreational bettors and the public play overs, favorites. To see a game move 5 points to the under, that's smart money, and I don't disagree with it. This could be like one of those 9-6 games.
When I did my breakdown today, I didn't do it last night like I usually do. I did this afternoon, and it's down to 37.5.
That's amazing to me. And I've read something interesting that said some of these games that project for, like, let's say 32 points or like a real under, you just can't put the line there because there'll just be so much money on the over, and the odds makers don't want to set them up for a situation where it's like 100% win or lose, right? They want to get it as close to 50% as possible.
Too much
so you'll
liability.
get a deal on lines like this in games that do project for like 32, 34 points. And this smells like one of them. Two good defenses. So anybody else, anything to add here? Healy, good?
I'm good. Jerry, any strong takes in this game?
Oh, I hate this fucking game.
All right.
Nothing to do with it.
All right. Go away, my little friend. Yeah.
I'm so fucking sick of seeing the Broncos on primetime. I want nothing to do with this game. If they beat me, they fucking beat me. I want nothing to do with it.
And hate me if you want, but I do hope that Future's fucking Sierra behind his back. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Let's move along. All right. Chiefs at the Niners. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is my game, so I'm going to get right into it. Couple of my knee-jerk reactions, and then let's talk about some things here. Chiefs coming off a bad loss, and now we have a rematch of the Super Bowl. And San Fran's going to be fired up, getting McCaffrey, making moves and whatnot. But again, what does it do for the locker room if you're Jeff Wilson? You know, you've been playing and doing what's asked of you. You know, you're a next man up type. And yeah, man, fucking Christian McCaffrey stepping off the plane. And I don't know if he's going to be playing here. I don't know if that came out while I wasn't in front of the computer today, guys. One way or the other, it's not going to affect my handicap right away here. But initially when this came out, I was all over the Chiefs. And I'm like, wow, this is a good spot for the Chiefs. I don't think that the Niners are going to be able to keep up. That was my initial thought. You know, I love the Niners defense. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was just like, I try to root for him. I try to bet on him, and he just fucking stinks. I mean, I try to make sense of it, but he's just not a good quarterback. I'm sorry. He's just not. So I don't think that they can keep up with them, but they could slow them down, you know, if that makes any sense. I mean, San Fran, definitely one of the best defenses in the NFL in real life. And here, I think for DFS purposes at 2,700, I think it's an absolute bargain to play the San Fran D at 2,700. I mean, you have to. You almost have to. I think that Kelsey is in play like Andrews, like Jerry mentioned earlier, every week. I mean, he's the target monster, touchdown monster, everything. You know, he's going there. Healy, you nailed Kittle last week, and it could have been bigger, right? He had a good game. It wasn't quite the eruption that you and I both thought and both projected would have been like that Zeke week. This week, I'm thinking Kittle week. But he's back in play here, you know, back in the spot, good positive rating, matched up well against the secondary. And I don't know if this game is going to be as explosive as people think, you know, 48-point total. I see more of an under playing out here. So I'm not really in a rush to play many pieces from this game. But if anything, it's going to be Kelsey and the San Fran D for me. And that's really all I can get behind here.
Jerry, what do you think here?
All I've been hearing all week is about how everybody is fading KC. They're fading Mahomes. They're fading Kelsey. They're you know, San Fran this, San Fran that. This is one of those like classic like GPP spots. I would not do this on my main lineup, but I'm gonna stack the fuck out of KC. And nobody's playing them. Mahomes is like priced up there with Lamar. Justin Herbert, nobody's going to play Mahomes. You're going to give me Mahomes under 5%, Kelsey like sub 10%. Like that KC stack, it's a 49 total. They're going to score points. Is it the classic spot for them? No, they're on the road. This is one of those games you kind of just want to stack in like a Millie Maker style lineup, right? You want Mahomes, you want Kelsey, you want one of his receivers, maybe Scantling or Juju. Bring it back with like Debo or Ayuk, who's caught 2 touchdowns last week, preferably Debo, a little bit priced up higher than Ayuk. But this is one of those games where nobody's going to stack. For some reason, everybody's off KC this week. Yeah, I mean, San Fran projects to be a better team in this matchup. But I'm still going to throw some stabs at a KC stack. I'm still going to play Mahomes. I'm still going to play Kelsey. I'm going to put him with one of his pass catchers. And Debo is one of my favorite plays on the slate. This is probably one of the last Debo weeks you're going to get. Once McCaffrey gets here, you're not going to get that rushing upside from Debo. You're not going to get that kind of usage that you would usually get when McCaffrey's not there. So I'm going to play Debo. I'm going to take some stabs at a KC stack with him.
I don't hate it. I mean, like you said, anytime you get Mahomes, low owned, and this leads to a question, Jerry. You touched on two things that are like real hot button for me. You talked about stacking, right? And Healy, you mentioned earlier, about onslaughting, one of those games. Maybe it was Cincinnati. What is too much and what's too little here? And then where I struggle personally, and I don't mind playing like a single entry, a 3 max, 5 max, or 20 or more, but how do you structure it in this type of situation? Because definitely, let's say we start with Mahomes and Kelsey +1. And then you said Scantling or Schuster. How the hell you make that decision? And then do you ever do a lineup where it's all of them, or is that too much? And then the second part of that question is, do you do 2 lineups? One with like Mahomes, Kelsey, and Scantling, and then do a second entry with like Mahomes, Kelsey, and Juju?
It just depends what tournament you're in. It depends what the buy-in of the tournament is, It depends how much salary you have. If you can't get to Juju, who's priced up higher than Scantling, then you go down to Scantling. If you can fit, like on DraftKings, it's kind of hard to get there with Mahomes, Kelsey, and Juju. You might have to move down to Scantling, or might have to move down to Hardman and try to run it back with Debo. You're going to have to really find value to run it back with Debo. If you can't get to Debo, you move it down to Ayuk. You can try to make it work, but the point of what I was trying to say is that you're not going to get a lot of people trying to do that. They're going to see the pricing. They're going to see that San Fran's in the news. They're hot. They got McCaffrey. And nobody's going to really want. I mean, KC, it's still 49 total. It's still Kansas City. It's still Mahomes. I'm not saying that I would play this stack in my main lineup, but take a stab at it in a tournament, like a million maker style tournament. Like it's not that far fetched that KC is going to go off at this kind of ownership where nobody's talking about them. They're going to be so low owned. I would definitely take a stab at them.
I mean, great points. And that's how you win these types of big field tournaments. You have to play, the low owned leverage plays. And then you touched on the second part right there before I kick it to Healy and Rackets, the run back. Like, to me, is a run back a mandatory thing when you're playing, let's say, a quarterback and call it 2 pass catchers? I get the theory why, that means they're jumping out to a lead. The other team's got to play from behind. But is it a necessity in DFS to play a run back?
It's not a necessity. But in this case, for example, Debo is projected to be a top play on the slate. Okay. So if you're going to stack Kansas City, you kind of have to bring him back with Debo. You know what I mean?
So, Healy, do you share that sentiment? Is a run back, a necessity, or do you always do it, and then take the game from there, and then pass the Rackets when you're done?
No, I mean, I don't think it's always necessary to run it back. Certainly from like a correlation and what you were talking about from a game flow perspective. If you think a game's going to shoot out, then, you certainly want someone on the other side of the ball that could be producing at the same time as your main stack is kind of going off. So I don't think it's always necessary. I also think you got to consider the price of what your stack is. Kind of being mindful, like if you're doing a Mahomes and a Kelsey and a Juju, like those are, Juju's not super expensive, but that other pairing is pretty expensive. You're going to need them to do a lot, so you're going to really need them to either completely onslaught the 49ers on the road, or the 49ers are going to have to keep the game competitive and Chiefs keep the pedal on the metal. And I would lean the latter in this particular situation. Based on the price of that stack, I would look to bring it back with at least a 49ers player on the other side. And
I like the Debo angle, yeah.
And what we kind of I didn't hear it kind of get touched on. So San Fran, strong defense all year, but they're battling a lot of injuries right now on that defensive side of the ball. They lost their number 2 cornerback, Mosley, last week, and it looks like Ward, their top cornerback, Jimmy Ward is in question of missing the game. He's going to be a game time decision. So, and then a couple linebackers, we know Bosa and folks are going to continue to be out, but there's a lot of people pretty banged up, significant pieces on that 49ers defense. So I like this Chiefs stack this week. Getting Mahomes at right now is projecting between like 3 and 5%, which is kind of music to my ears, especially as Jerry alluded to those large field tournaments. And I'm going to go right back to Juju Smith. I kind of talked him up a lot last week. Finally had that breakout game. Broke a big one for a touchdown. I think it's another spot for Juju to turn in another pretty good game here this week. So I like the Mahomes side. And the 49ers, the receivers are in a good spot, but as you mentioned, Mike, it's tough to invest a ton of capital with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing you the ball. So I like Debo. Typically, he's going to get a couple carries. His targets do go up with Jimmy G under center as opposed to Trey Lance. It's like an additional about 3 targets per game. He's averaging right under 9 targets per game with Jimmy G under center. So he certainly would be the preferred, but if we can't get to him, Brandon Ayuk, another guy for a little bit of a discount, I don't mind going to. The Chiefs are giving up quite a bit of production, 5th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers coming into this one. So a good matchup here for the wideouts of the 49ers.
I like that. And the more I hear you guys talk about it, it makes more sense, with Mahomes in this KC stack. And when I said I looked at the game originally and I was going to give you my take, KC was a bet of mine for the reason of I don't think San Fran can keep up. You know what you're getting with Kansas City. And hearing what you guys are saying, really puts me on that low-owned stack of KC. So great input, guys. Rackets, anything to add, to that to close out?
Not really. I'm on the 49ers this week, but I'm not disputing anything that you guys are saying 100%. 3%, 5% Mahomes is insane. That number should never happen. So. All
right, so I'm gonna spin this real quick. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do we know for sure McCaffrey
he's playing? He's going to play. It's a red zone package for him.
We don't know for sure that he's playing or not. It's not for sure, but if he does play, it kind of takes a little hit on Debo.
Got it. Okay,
but it doesn't take a hit on the KC side.
From what I heard, it was they're gonna design a red zone package for him.
Okay, makes sense.
Good spot to design it. So I want to do a quick round right here. Let's start for this week only. Kelsey or Andrews? Start with Scarface.
Andrews.
Healy?
Man, they're close. It's Andrews, and especially if Bateman is out.
If Bateman's
as well.
out, it's got to be Andrews.
I agree.
Rackets?
Andrews.
All right. That's such a hotly contested thing every week, too, when you're doing the spend ups and they're both there. But let's go on to the next game here. I love what you guys said to close out there, the Kansas City side. Seattle Seahawks been fucking balling out, playing great football, 3-3. They're hitting the road. They're playing the Chargers. Chargers a little bit overwhelmed. You had everybody with their tinfoil hats on about DraftKings and Herbert actually not throwing 1 touchdown. But my man Rackets called it on Stake Asher. He said, I think Denver, is like one of the best against the pass and blah, blah, blah. And when you said it, it was like, where? Like Kill Bill, like when you heard the song coming in. But Rackets, great call with that. You called that.
The thing was, they didn't even get close to it. Like they didn't have a passing attempt inside the 5, inside the 20. Like at no point were they even fucking close to it. And that was the part that was really that really stuck out to me was it's not like, there was he just didn't, a drop pass in the end zone, whatever, but it never even had a fucking chance. But getting into it, I think coming off that game Monday night, I think Herbert at 7.2K, he's going to come out slinging it, man, against the Seahawks defense. This is a great rebound spot for him. And then Eckler at 8.3K. This guy is just a monster, man. 24.3 points, 38.9 points, and 34.9 DraftKings points in the last 3 games. He's accounted for most of the Chargers offense in that span, and it's a little expensive, but this is a great matchup again. I love the Chargers in this game here. On the last Charger that I have, I'm just going to jump down to it, is Gerald Everett at 4K. Seattle's dead last against opposing tight ends, and coming off a 7-target game, I could see Everett having a pretty decent game. Only 29 receiving yards last week, but he did make 5 catches, so the volume was at least there. And then on the Seattle side of the ball, I bought into Geno last week, and he kind of disappointed me, so I'm back off of Geno. But I do like Metcalf at 6.6K, 15 targets over his last 2 games. Lockett has a hamstring issue. He's probably going to play, but I'm not going to chance playing a deep threat with a hamstring issue. So I lean toward Metcalf there. And then Kenneth Walker at 5.8K. Took over as the primary back when Penny got hurt a couple weeks ago. This kid looks really good, man. 23 touches last week for 110 yards and a touchdown. Chargers are 30th in the league against opposing running backs. He should be getting all the volume out of the backfield. I don't even think DJ Dallas had a fucking touch last week. So Kenneth Walker at 5.8K, I think he's still underpriced.
He looked explosive. I tell you,
he looks good, man.
Really explosive.
Yeah.
Healy, you want to take it from there, or Jerry?
Healy, go ahead.
So I mean, this game from a projection standpoint, projects me pretty chalky. So has me pretty intrigued in that last game we talked about. Whether it's a pivot or just to get a little different here in the 4 p.m. window. But this game projects for a lot of fantasy goodness as well. On the Chargers side, it looks like it sounds like the talk says Keenan Allen could sit out till after their Week 8 bye. If he sits, Palmer got banged up, Parham got banged up. Who's going to be left there? It's going to be Mike Williams. I think this is a week to buy low, coming off Mike Williams. Arguably his worst game. Herbert just really didn't look to even try to force him the ball here, and kind of similar to what I talked about on the Mike Evans spot early on in the show. I think this is a spot where they try to get Mike Williams some targets, down the field and certainly in the red zone. So I like him if I'm going to play by himself or preferred pairing with Herbert. And it's a really good spot for Eckler. Seahawks giving up a ton of production to opposing running backs, especially pass catching running backs. And we know Eckler, very skilled, leading the league for running back receptions, up to 41 now coming into this week. Josh Kelly went down last week, so they're just a little bit more thin in terms of backups. So for me, Mike, this might be one of those narrow spots where you can play Herbert, Eckler, and Mike Williams, or just play Williams and Eckler and really just eat up a large majority of this Chargers offense. And on the Seahawks side, it's always Metcalf over Lockett for me, especially now Lockett's a little bit banged up. But Kenneth Walker, as you guys mentioned, looked really strong, was breaking a lot of tackles, running really hard, and gets a pretty solid matchup here. So I think he's still priced too low at 5.8. I think he should be priced in the mid sixes, and I expect him to after another solid game this week. So he's my preferred Seahawk, but if I'm stacking up this game, certainly would want to have a little bit of Metcalf exposure for me.
All right. I mean, I have a question then. I mean, how much is the Denver D responsible just for the complete shutdown of Justin Herbert and the Chargers? I mean, it makes me go back and I have to rewind and go look. Like I was saying, the under in that game versus the Jets, where Denver will now be at home, New York team traveling to altitude, East Coast, West Coast. I mean, if they shut down this Chargers attack with Eckler and Big Mike and Herbert and whatnot, you see Zach Wilson going in there and balling out. I mean, am I missing something? And Denver just can't score. So it makes me, again, look at that under in that game there. But do you think the Chargers rebound here, like a rubber band being pulled back? The total's set at 51. They're at home, positive game script, 7-point favorites. Is this a smash spot for what you just said?
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. Jared, I'm interested in your take on this one as well.
I mean, it's week to week in the NFL. You're going to get a shit week. You're going to get a good week. We've seen this offense perform. We've seen Herbert to Williams. We've seen Eckler do it. Eckler is one of my favorite plays on the slate. The problem with Eckler is, can you fit him in, right? He's 9,500 on FanDuel. He's 8,300 on DraftKings. How do you fit him in? He's going to have
Heineke build you mentioned.
Which is what I'm getting to right now. On DraftKings, you put in Heineke. You can start fitting Eckler. You can start fitting Devontae Adams. You can start fitting all these studs that you want to play. If Heineke gets to 20, 25 points, possibly, your lineup is going to fucking smash. I'm not saying Heineke is going to do that, but in lineups where you do set it up like that, you can fit Eckler. Eckler is going to eat in this game. He's not going to be shut down. He's going to get his catches. He's going to get his carries. He could possibly get a touchdown or two. Eckler is one of my favorite plays on the slate. It just comes down to whether you can fit him in or not. Mike Williams, I mean, Seattle's defense is shit. Yeah, it just is. He's going to get his catches. He's the number one receiver right now. Herbert, you can play Herbert. It's kind of hard to fit a Herbert, Eckler, Williams stack, but I think they're all going to be productive in this game. You kind of have to choose between just going with Eckler or maybe just going with a Herbert Williams stack. But yeah, you can play them. And on the other side, Geno's cheap. He's going to be chalk. He's chalk for a reason. I mean, the Chargers defense, they're going to give it up. So you go Geno. You can go. I'll just like Healy said. I always go Metcalf over Lockett. So you go Geno, Metcalf. I'm not saying you got to stack this game, but there's pieces of this game you kind of want. You know, if you can fit Eckler in, Eckler is my favorite piece of this game.
Yeah, I got to agree with you with Eckler. I mean, every week he's a must play. I mean, he's a pass catching running back. He's explosive. He gets goal line touches for a little guy. Seahawks are one of the worst defenses, giving up yardage in the NFL versus the run. Home game, positive script, everything that we talked about earlier. I like it, and this is a good segue into construction and the path to build. Last week the path for the public or the majority was spend down at running backs, and the contrarian style was spend up at running backs. You have a good slate here. You have the Andrews.
I don't mean to cut you off. You kind of have to go where the slate takes you. Last week, the slate took us to a point where you have to put in those value running backs. This week, the slate's a little bit different. You're not getting all of that. So, like, every slate is different. You know what I mean?
But yeah, and that's what I'm saying basically is like, what is this week's, build? What is the path? Like last week I was mentioning it was spend down at running backs, a lot of value running backs. What do we see, this weekend on this slate? Jerry, right back to you on it then. What do you think it is here this week? I hear you talking a lot about, so let's say spend down quarterback, which makes sense, right? And then you get the Eckler and maybe even a Devontae Adams in, but what do you say?
You're going to see a lot of those like mid-tier running backs. You're going to see Jacobs plugged into a lot of lineups. Probably coming in with like another mid-tier running back, like a Kenneth Walker or like a Joe Mixon or something like that, right? And then you're going to see Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, Geno Smith, kind of like a mid-tier quarterback. And at tight end, I think people are going to spend down at tight end this week. I think spending up at tight end this week on DraftKings is going to be contrarian. On FanDuel, you might see like a little bit of Andrews. I mean, I think that's the base build of what you're going to see this week.
Okay, and where do you start when you're building your lineup? And then I'll bounce to Healy on that too. Like, do you start at like quarterback, defense? I mean, is there a general starting spot, or do you say I want to get a quarterback and a pass catcher first, and build out from there? Like, how do you start your builds?
I kind of want to see where the projections are going. I want to see. I never want to miss out at running back. I feel like receiver is hit or miss as is, because you can get a receiver that can get one catch for 80 yards and a touchdown. You can get a receiver that gets 10 catches for 80 yards and no touchdowns. Receiver, it's a wild card. I kind of want to start with running back for the most part. I want to know that a running back is going to get his carries. I want to know that he's going to have a chance at getting touchdowns, and then I'll take it from there. That's where I usually like to start with my builds.
Okay, Healy, same question to you.
Yeah, I mean, as far as this week in particular, the first question just around, I think this is a mid-price build week. Everyone's kind of going to just go middle of the road. I don't see the spend-ups being extremely highly owned. I don't think anyone's jamming any of those guys in this week. It looks like it's all the mid-tier that is getting all of the early exposure. Josh Jacobs, we talked about. CeeDee Lamb, we talked about. And then Kenneth Walker. I think those are going to be primarily the three highest owned guys kind of across the board, which kind of just puts you in, based on their prices. Maybe if you punt one spot, you can get one spend up. So doing a little bit more stars and scrubs. I think we highlighted a couple of value plays along the way that we really like. Whether it's at quarterback or at the skill positions, to allow you to spend up to be contrarian, to get some of those guys with absolute massive ceilings that not many people are going to play. So it's going to lead you to some unique builds. And then as far as starting spot for me, I do like to start with a quarterback and wide receiver pairing most weeks as far as the first thing I plug into my lineups, and then kind of build from there. But like Jerry, I like to look at running backs. the volume is for the most part fairly predictable, and volume typically lends itself to fantasy points. So I prefer to not get too off the board at running back most weeks. So playing my quarterback and pass catching pairing, and then kind of using my small pool of running backs, which ones kind of fit best in that build. And then maybe one or two spots look to get a little different depending on the size of the tournament and the contest that you're playing in for that particular lineup.
All right. Rackets, anything to add on that? From either the perspective of where to start a build or.
I always start just like Healy said, I start with my quarterback receiver combo. And this week, I'm just throwing a tournament shot here. Matt Ryan, Alec Pierce, and the Jets defense comes out to $12,600, leaving you $6.2K per player.
That's nice.
I mean, that's how you win it, right?
That salary is nice. That Matt Ryan is not nice. Not nice.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's tough. I mean, I got to ask Jerry another question. Jerry, after seeing your screenshots, and again, I mean, it's amazing. I play DFS, and I just can't. I've never won the big one yet, or had like a significant cash, right? Let's call it. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong or what it is, but even starting with contest selection, like how do you land on those contests? I noticed you played, maybe some higher dollar entries, and Healy mentioned you play 1 to 3 lineups. Do you focus on like single entry when you look at like the menu to play for the week? Like where do your eyes go? Like where do you start?
I mean, Healy will tell you, I go for the big bucks. I go for the kill shot. Give me the contest with the biggest payouts, and I'm gonna try to take those down. I'm not an MME guy. I'm not going to put my lineups into an optimizer and try to build out 150 lineups. That's just not my style. I'm going to put in like 1 to 3 lineups. I'm going to put it in a bunch of tournaments, and I'm going to hope that it hits. And just based on the slate, based on the tournament I'm in, it's just how I'm going to build out my lineup. Every slate is different. Every tournament is different. So it's just the matter of the slate, matter of the tournament. To hit the kind of week that I had last week, I mean, you need a lot of luck. You need a lot of luck to win any tournament, but you got to put yourself in a position to get lucky. Okay, you got to put the right stacks in. There's got to be some kind of correlation in your lineup, especially in NFL. I believe that. Maybe somebody else will think differently. But when it comes to NFL, there's got to be, when it comes to any sport, I think there's got to be some kind of correlation. In MLB, you're stacking a 4x4 stack. You're stacking this, you're stacking that. In NHL and NBA, there's got to be some kind of correlation in your lineup where it comes together to help you get to the top. And you have to have some kind of low owned play in your lineup that nobody else is on, that's just going to just give you that little bit of edge. It's going to shoot you up to the top. Where last week it was Traquan Smith. I had him at 1%.
Great call.
Olave was out. Michael Thomas was out. I like Jamar Chase, so I thought, they're going to be in a shootout. I don't know. They might be throwing the ball around. And I knew that somebody from New Orleans was going to get the ball. So I took a shot on Traquan, and luckily, I mean, he had 3 catches for I forgot how many yards and a touchdown. But it was probably the difference in getting me to the top. And you take a shot on a defense. Defense is a crapshoot. You got to decide for yourself. Do you want to spend up on defense? Do you want to spend down on defense? You got to get lucky with those. I mean, you have to put yourself in a position to get lucky in a tournament. Okay, that's and then you have to get lucky. It really comes down to a matter of luck. Things have to work out for you to get lucky, but you got to put yourself in that position.
Yeah, but prior to getting lucky, do you look when your eyes look at that slate? And Healy, you can follow up on this after Jerry. Do you look for like the single entry, or do you have no problem entering in only one lineup and like an 8-backs? Like where do you start? Do you try to look for a high dollar single entry, or do you try to play a 3-max and put all 3 in, or where do you start when you?
I might be a different example than others. I mean, I always put my lineups in the highest contest I can get in.
Okay.
Because in the off chance that your lineup in the off chance that you just happen to be right that day, like I want to get paid off. You're not going to be right all the time. Nobody is going to be right all the time. But in the off chance that I do happen to be right that day, I want to get paid off. And that's what I do for most of the slates that I play in. Healy might have a different
Yeah, I mean, Healy, I'm interested to hear because, like, sometimes I struggle. Like, you can't win these 150, in my opinion, by hand building one lineup or even three and 150 max entry, 165,000 people in. I mean, you can't win. But like, do I have a better chance entering, say, a 3 max versus a single entry, or like, how do you start? Like, where do you look?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you want to understand kind of, what your goals are. Like, if you're trying to win $1 million, then entering a single bullet in the Millie Maker, your probability is extremely low. So contest selection is very important. And I think understanding what kind of lineups are entered in particular contests. So you can, historically, if you want to do research, you can go back and look at a contest. And I know, the contest that Jerry and I play on a daily or weekly basis, you have a good understanding what half of the field is going to play. What kind of lineups they're going to build in that particular lineup or that particular contest. It gives you a good starting point and understanding of how different do I have to get kind of from the average lineup in that particular contest. Like Jerry mentioned, it was essentially him doing I'll call it a standard build that most are going to enter in that same contest last week, except he went Traycon Andrews, where everyone else, potentially plugged in 2 mid-tier guys that just projected better. Certainly Traycon wasn't jumping off at any optimizers. Obviously, you got him at less than 1%. So I think just understanding the contests that you're in and what kind of lineups your opponents are going to be. So to your question, Mike, just if folks can enter 150, you're going to have people that just get a lot more variety. So you're going to see some of these extremely outlier plays go off. Someone's going to do it every week, right? Someone's going to catch an 80-yard touchdown that might play 1 snap or 2 snaps. And unfortunately, you need to have them to win $1 million because 100 people played them out of 150,000, and you're never going to get to them on a single lineup. That's the biggest challenge. So for me, I like to play contests, single entry, 3 max, or higher dollar ones that have less entrants in it. I don't care if they can enter 8 or 12. I feel like if I could build 1 to 3. Based on what I know about DFS, roster construction, et cetera, that I have a realistic chance to take those down week in and week out.
All right. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense, but it's a key part. It's one of the most important parts of playing DFS, for your beginner player. Maybe you want to stick to double ups, 50-50s. It depends on what your goals are. But yeah, I mean, you're throwing your money away if you're hand building 1 against 150. I used to laugh.
Sorry, to cut you off. Can I make a suggestion for the beginner players that are just starting out? You got to do 3 maxes, single entries. Don't get into those million making contests. You're a fish out of water. You're playing against pros that are putting in 150 lineups. You're never going to win those tournaments. It's a lottery ticket. If you happen to win those tournaments, it's a lottery ticket. Stick to like the single entries, 3 maxes, something with like 100 to 200, 300 entrants in the tournament. Stick to those. It's hard to do, like, for example, like the tournaments that I won, it's hard to get into those tournaments and beat the sharps, who I consider those are sharps. These are people that are.
You're a sharp, my friend. You're a sharp.
I don't consider myself.
You are, man. Traquan Smith.
I do not.
Like game theory.
I'm a recreational player, and I just happened to win this tournament. It's not easy to do. You have to put yourself in a position to get lucky. So, keep that in mind. If you're in Discord, I'm happy to answer your questions.
All right, well, thank you. I mean, very valuable tonight. Healy, you have anything to add? I know we went a little over, but, real special occasion to hear inside the mind of Jerry. It's one thing to win it, but when you hear him rationalize why Tre'Quan Smith, and he explained this process, and it just makes so much sense. And you almost wish you could see that before it happens. So, Jerry, what is the Tre'Quan?
Kind of have to have little big balls and just go with your balls.
I like
if you have to take on something, don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Go with how you feel, which is what I've been doing. I don't listen to anybody else. I go with what I feel.
You got to hit him with the Scarface shtick. DFS is like a great big pussy just waiting to be fucked.
That's right. Yeah. So for me, week 7, looking forward to it. Myself, Jerry, both of our NFL breakdown, official articles, plays, guys that are going to be in our lineups. This week comes out. We'll drop on the site tomorrow. We'll be in Discord all weekend answering questions as folks are building, especially Sunday morning as we head into lock as well.
Well, you can't get a better place, so now's a good time to mention our special year-end special. Get every sport, everything that we're talking about for only $169. Go to 4DeepBets.com. And for me personally, since I bet and play DFS and do everything, here's a perfect example. I mean, you get Healy and Jerry in here. You get the written content. Rackets is dropping dimes on stay cash in. I mean, almost predicted that Herbert wouldn't throw the touchdown, but gave good reasoning why. And we'll all be in the Discord tonight. And then I'm going to write my UFC article now. And then tomorrow there's fights. And we're just constantly grinding. And we're in there with you. And it's a wonderful community. So I thank Jerry, for coming on today. Healy and Rackets for all you guys always do here for us at 4DeepBets. But what a great motivator, too. I mean, I want to play more DFS this week, and I'm so motivated once I take the knowledge from here. But great show as always, and I personally wanted to thank everybody on here, and especially our producer, Evan. Evan, you do a great job. I see your picture and whatnot, but you're not chiming in and out. But Evan's a wealth of knowledge as well, and he kills it, on our content side. And if you're not following us on TikTok, Evan, I saw your one video that went extremely viral, the other day. I mean, you're doing a great job, too. So the entire team here at 4DeepBets. So thank you to everybody. Let's kill it this week.
All right. Good luck, everyone.
Stay cashing.